When large jobs require moving massive amounts of snow, get the work done quickly and efficiently with the Western Pile Driver and all-new Pile Driver XL pusher plows, both featuring Trace Edge technology. These pushers scrape down to the pavement with an advanced cutting-edge system that has independent 2-foot sections that move vertically, oscillate, and trip. Get more jobs done faster with the Western Pile Driver lineup of pusher plows.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey with your host, Dave Westcott. The Entrepreneurial Journey is a weekly podcast that streams live every Tuesday at 9:15 a.m. Pacific on Dave's YouTube channel and LinkedIn profile. Now here's Dave with this week's episode.
Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott, and I have with me this morning special guest, Ben Callahan, founder of Sparkbox. Ben, good morning.
Hey, how are you, Dave?
I'm doing outstanding. I'm having a great day. I hope you are as well.
I am. Yeah, it's beautiful in Ohio.
Whereabouts, Ohio, are you?
I am in a little town called Oakwood, which is just south of Dayton, Ohio. So kind of between Cincinnati and Columbus, mid-sized city, industrial roots, but it's a nice little place to raise a family.
Yeah, that is nice. You know, there's a great little steakhouse out there that I love, Jeff Ruby's. You got a Jeff Ruby's out there, right? I think it's in Cincinnati, right?
We've got that Jeff Ruby's. There's a few. Yeah, there's the Precinct. There's Jeff Ruby's downtown. There's a couple other spots. But yeah, he makes a good steak for sure.
Right? Great environment. Got the piano going.
Oh yeah.
And that's awesome. And then I guess you got the Buckeyes, right?
We do. Yep. If you're into college football, this is the place to be. We also have, I moved to this area because my parents were Air Force, and the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is makes a big impact here on the economy, and so there's a beautiful, museum if you're interested in flight, that kind of thing. So
that's very cool. That's some good history. So you've been a founder, you've been a CEO, you've been an entrepreneur for a very, very long time. And you have very, very interesting business. But how did you get started in entrepreneurship? What was it that just kind of rang the bell that said, I'm going out on my own?
Yeah, I remember, this is funny. I remember when I was in college, I studied computer science, and there was a building, the science center, where in the basement they had the computer labs. And I remember coming up out of the lab one morning after writing code all night and ordering pizza and doing what we used to do in college, coming up out into the light and like walking out the doors, and there was a breezeway, and in the breezeway there were these cork boards, and on the cork boards there were always students posting stuff, and there was one thing, there was a purple piece of paper, and it was one of the whole deals with like the little advertisement and then the tags along the bottom, and you could take off and call somebody to participate or whatever. And this was for the Young Entrepreneurs Club. And I remember looking at that and I thought to myself, I never want to own a business. That sounds like an absolute headache to me. And I think it's because my parents, my dad was Air Force, but he when I was in high school, he opened his own private practice. He was a podiatrist. And I saw he and my mom working so much, just trying to get this practice off the ground and doing the books and keeping track of all these patient records and just so many things, it's all the stuff around the business itself, And I remember thinking, I don't want to do all that, and so I got into the world after I graduated I was a computer scientist, I wrote code for big companies for a long time. And then I remember at one point sleeping in my office and being like, this is ridiculous. Why am I, I am like sacrificing my life for this company, and all I get is a paycheck. I don't get any, long-term ownership in the business. And I think that sort of idea of like building equity in a thing, and also just the idea that I wanted sort of maybe a bit of a myth of like flexibility, that comes with running your own business. So those were the things I think that pushed me to it. And I don't know if that answers
super interesting. But no, that's awesome, man. I mean, that's so interesting. And what I hear you saying is like, man, I was building somebody else's dream, right? Like, somebody else's vision, somebody else's dream, somebody else's business is what I was building. And I'm sleeping in the office and I'm hanging out and I'm just like, I'm done with this. This isn't what I signed on for. This isn't like, if I'm going to do this, then, maybe everything I watched my parents go through, the paperwork, the administration, the hiring, the firing, the filing, all of those things is potentially worth it. And, let's get off the couch and, let's get to work and build our own shop. And I think
Yeah.
that's what you did.
Yeah, that's like a really good summary, I think, Dave.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, your parents, this is totally off track, but your parents were podiatrists. So that's foot doctor, right?
That's right. And if you're a runner, you probably have a podiatrist, I would
That's
guess.
right. I do, man. I do. I'm a runner. And so, I'm going to tell you this, that in my life, before I started running, I did not know what a podiatrist was. Okay. But when I became a runner, the podiatrist became the most important doctor in the entire world to me, because
Oh yeah.
if I've got a problem with a foot, man, they can solve it and they can keep me running, versus if I don't take care of it, I'm a goner, right? So what your parents did, I absolutely love it. And I think it's like, for me, my podiatrist, man, that's the guy. Like, and so anyways, that was totally off topic, but I love what they
I,
did.
I don't think it's off topic, actually. I mean, if you think about it, this is going to be a cheesy analogy, but like if there's something wrong with your foot, it works its way right up your entire body, right? Like
Yeah.
your ankle will start to hurt, your knee will start to hurt, you adjust, and now your hip hurts, and then your back, and it literally is like the foundation of you as a person and your movement. And so that same thing is true in business, right? Like if the
Yeah.
foundational pieces aren't in place, everything else is painful. So
That's
a
right.
cheesy analogy, but I think we can connect it,
No, it's true. I mean, I think that is a great analogy. I had never even thought of it like that, but it's true. The way that you take care of your business, the way that you take care of your body, all of those pieces really work together. And I think that I could take it one step further and say that the people that you surround yourself, the professionals that you work with, are mission critical to your success. So for me, being a runner, having a great podiatrist on the team, somebody that I can talk to, somebody that can prescribe medications, somebody that can help me adjust the insoles in my shoes or adjust the different type of shoe that I'm wearing, is mission critical to my success. And it's so like that in business, whatever, partners you choose. Maybe you choose QuickBooks to do your books, or maybe something, a little fancier like Sage, but whatever it is, those partnerships are mission critical to your success, and they help
Yeah.
you avoid pitfalls that can be detrimental. So I love where you went with that. I think that was a great segue.
Yeah.
Um, so you're on the entrepreneurial journey. You decide, I'm going for it. What did that first year look like? I'm super curious to just know what was that like?
Yeah, I was in a position as a software engineer in this company, and this was like early days. I was working on like AS400, OS400 stuff, like green screen software, very,
Uh,
very technical, boring stuff. um, and this product I was working on was actually a reporting language. So it was basically like writing code to generate reports on a whole bunch of different database operating system combinations. Very technical stuff. But anyway, they started to build a GUI product, and this was an old school Windows app. And so basically the way they built this thing was they took every function that existed in this language we were building, and they made a button for it. And so now instead of you having to remember to type a phrase, you could click a button. I mean, it was basically like if a programmer designed the interface. This is exactly what it was.
yeah.
And it was absolutely terrible. And like the experience of this, the user experience of this product was awful. And I'm this young kid, I'm out of college. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, why are we doing this? This isn't even worth the effort we're putting into it. And so I kind of went to my boss and was talking to him about it. I just kind of kept complaining about this, and I eventually got moved onto that team, and it exposed me to this kind of software development, which was, now we call it front end development, but it's basically like building the interface, building the part of the software that actually is where the humans interact with it. And I fell in love with this idea of the people on the other side of the screen, And so
Yeah.
I think there wasn't a lot of space for that where I was working, And so I decided I wanted to kind of see if I could make a run at that. And so I stepped down from that role. I took some time. I took about 6 months off. I was well paid. I was this young single guy. My expenses were nothing, so I had some money saved up. And I just decided I wanted to, one, be a little bit more creative. I have always been like a musician. I've been a photographer, a writer, just like lots of other interests too. I was trying to find ways to kind of bring all that together. And so I started a business called Design District, and it was a small, just me and a couple buddies basically, and we were just trying to build. We were basically doing anything we could for anybody who had money. It was literally
so true.
It was just like, how can I pay my bills? And so we did video work, we did animation work, we did websites, we did trade show booth stuff, basically anything, some branding stuff we were not qualified to do, honestly. And eventually we did a website for a company, and we put that in our portfolio, and all of my customers saw that and were like, we didn't know you did websites. And this was just like timing, it was like late 90s when everybody was needing websites, all of that was just like so huge. And so all of our clients were asking for web work. And so we kind of very quickly started to scale. First website I designed for $500, and the next one we did it for $1,000, and the next one $2, and the next one $4. And I just kept doubling the price, and it just kept going. It was amazing, and so that was kind of how we got into it.
That's awesome, man. So you designed the first business, and I love that just honest scrappiness, because that's the truth about every entrepreneur who bootstraps the business. It's like, I got to pay the rent, I got to pay the bills, I got to be able to put food on the table. I don't care if it's Taco Bell right now, but it's going to happen, and we got to get this thing across the finish line. And you're doing all sorts of different stuff, and then you kind of fall into these little niches, right? And they say niches lead to riches, but you fall into these things that's like, okay, this is biting, this is really cool, this is making me money, and you're going along the path. And so you've built this business. It's awesome. Design District, I love the name. It's catchy, it's fun. Where in this world does Sparkbox come into play?
Yeah, so Design District was, I guess I would say, it was a partnership between four of us. And very quickly, it was clear that we couldn't support four people, and so it scaled back quickly to two of us. And I think when we did the website, that was kind of my domain. The other person was more like a video animation person, and so we saw so much traction there. And so I essentially ended up buying him out to run Design District as a web studio. And so I did that, and then I ran that way for about 2 or 3 years. And then I met a couple other folks. And honestly, it's funny, Dave, I haven't thought about it like this, but the scrappiness at the beginning of Design District of just like, we'll do anything if you give us money. Yeah. I got a specialization with it. And then when I found other people, it's like we broadened out again and we got back into that sort of scrap. It's like I didn't learn the lesson of specialization, And so I went through that whole same process again with another company called Forge. And we tried to do everything. We did branding, we did digital, we did, the same kind of stuff, and then eventually we saw traction on the digital product side, on web stuff, and about this time, there was this movement in the web design space called responsive web design. So if now, when you go to a website, you can take your browser and you can shrink it down to be very narrow, or you can make it wide, and the website kind of like adjusts itself, right? Didn't always work that way, And so we were another sort of moment of they're just good timing, where we decided to kind of create a new brand, Sparkbox, out of Forge, and that would be a web-only focused brand. And that was right around 2009, 2010, when the responsive web design was kind of really coming on the scene. And the iPhone had come out a couple of years earlier, so small browsers were in everybody's pockets, it was just an interesting time, And so that was kind of the origin story of Sparkbox. And we took my current one of our current employees at the time became my business partner in Sparkbox. Wow. I stepped into sort of the leadership role of that organization, and that's been 16 years or something, 15 years, So
So you're 20, 22 years into this journey.
Yeah.
You've been on it for a while. You're now seasoned, right? You're having fun. You build Sparkbox. You've been doing it, 16 years, and you've grown some incredible clientele. You've got some beautiful blue chip names like Adobe, Gap, Stanford University, DocuSign. I mean, those are the names that everybody wants to work for, right? And one, I mean, you have more than one, so obviously you did something right. But how do you even, for the entrepreneurs out there who want to, be like you, who want to grow like you, who are interested in that, how do you even begin to open the door with somebody like Adobe or Gap? I mean, how does that conversation even start?
Yeah. It's a really good question. I wish there was like a formula for it. I think when I think about our history, it was relationships, which
Mm,
is what did it. And you could, I guess, I don't want to come across as like sort of falsely humble here. Like I'm
yeah.
very proud of the work that we've done. And at some point in all of this journey, I realized it wasn't enough to just do good work. I think that's what I started it with. Like, if I remember thinking at the very beginning, I'm going to be so good at the craft of the work that I'm
Mm,
going to have a line of people that just want to work for me, want me to work for them. And I remember a couple of years in thinking, like most service-based companies, it was up and down. It's up and down. It's like I would
yeah.
look up, go find the work, get the work. Then I'd have to put my eyes down to focus on the work, and we'd be finished with it. And now I don't have the next thing. So it was just
Yeah.
that constant up and down. And I think I learned that doing good work is just the cost of entry. Like that's everybody in the business,
Mm,
most people in the business. You don't stay in business if you can't do good work, right? Like so that wasn't enough. And so I started to recognize that there was a lot of value in sharing the things that I was learning. And so I started writing, I started speaking, I started doing some more intentional research, and those things led to relationships. I got to
wow.
speak at events where people from Gap and DocuSign and wherever else were attending, and I got to run workshops on how to do these sort of responsive techniques or design system specific techniques, and so those kinds of activities are what created relationships with folks. And as those people move around and grow in their career, they sort of invite you to come along for that ride. And that's really kind of how that happened for us.
Wow. You said some really, really powerful things in there, and I think that, man, what great lessons. I mean, just extremely powerful. I'm going to be so good at the craft that I'm going to have, a line out the door. Like I'm going to be so booked for work, and what you learned was that wasn't necessarily true. And I think so many entrepreneurs are incredible craftsmen, right? Especially in service-based spaces. They think that, man, my everybody can benefit from my service. And I think that that's true. But I think in the, I don't know, 4 years that I've been doing this show, the hundreds of people I've interviewed, and I've never heard that line, which I love, which came next was doing good work is just the cost of entry. Wow, what a powerful line that is, because so true that just doing good work is the cost of entry. That's what opens the door, keeps the door open and keeps it moving. Man, that is just so powerful of a statement. I think, for any entrepreneur out there, that's just impressive. And then I love the pivot that you started to understand that. And then you said, wait a minute, I can speak on this, I can write on this, I can share it. And I think that's the whole mantra of this show is if we can share real things that really helped in business, because everybody's got that teaser out there on social media, on the internet, and everybody's got that moment that says, hey, here's the secret to success, but keep scrolling and keep scrolling and now pay 19.95 or whatever it is, and you never get the real nugget. And I love that's what this show is about those nuggets. And I love what you're doing with sharing, and you're writing and you're speaking and you're losing those skills that you talked about early on. You said, man, I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, I'm creative, I want those elements into my business. So you were able to harness things that you loved and things that you were really passionate about to actually grow your business. That
Yeah.
is just amazing, man. Like the clarity, the thought. What was it that that just triggered that I gotta share? What was it? Was it something you learned early on? Was it a thought? Was it mentoring? What just clicked that was like, I gotta share?
Yeah, I've tried to figure this out. Partly, I think the industry that I'm in, originally we were so focused on just the web, right?
Yeah.
And it was like the heyday of the internet. The web world was just blowing up. Everybody needed this work. And what's funny about this is even to this day, you can open up any website in the world on your web browser and you can go view source and you can go look at all the code behind the scenes that creates that digital experience. The web is open by default, right? And unlike if I go buy a can of Coca-Cola and I take it home and I open up and I enjoy it, I can't really see it's a secret recipe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
most businesses, there's like a level of secret there, and
Right.
it's just not that way. You can't hide it on the web. And so there is this sort of default, like the bones of my industry are so open that I think when we started learning these techniques for responsive web design early days, I remember thinking, we got to teach the rest of the industry how to do this. And I remember going to my lawyer. I sat down at a Thai restaurant just down the street from here with my lawyer. And I was like, look, here's what I want to do. I need you to help me draft a contract for the events that host these big web events, and they want us to run a workshop for them. I need a contract, that's like, how do I make sure I'm getting paid a fair amount and that we still own the material and all that stuff? And he was like, okay, hold on a second. You're telling me, this is my lawyer, you're telling me you want to go to an event and teach all of your competitors how to do the thing that you're known for doing? Like, why would you do that? And in his mind, it was like, you're giving away the secret sauce. You can't do that. And I was like, yeah, you're missing it, and my framing of that was always, I'm going to be teaching a workshop, right? And half the people in there are definitely potential competitors of mine. They run studios, they might be a consultant, right? But the other half are potential customers of mine. And my potential customers are going to watch my potential competitors ask me how to do it. So like later on when they need something, who do you think they're going to call, right? It was just like, so I think there's just like a different mentality in the space. And I don't know, maybe that's part of it,
I love that, man. I love just the openness and what you built. And I love that, you went to your lawyer and you actually talked about it and you said, hey man, what again? He said no, but you said, okay, listen, let's keep going. You're not seeing it. You're not putting it, you're not picking up what I'm putting down. And so, you focused on that. Now, one of the things that you say is that, your personal motto is stay in learning mode. And I believe as the CEO, there's 5 elements that make up the job description of the CEO. And I believe that one of those is constant learning. And it seems like that's something that you've really adapted. For the entrepreneurs listening to the show today, how do you do that? Why do you do that? And how do you constantly get new information or new types of learning after over 20 years in industry? I mean, is there always new things to learn?
Yeah, this is like my favorite question of all. I have that phrase, stay in learning mode. It's just sitting on a sticky note right here on my display. And I just want to see it all the time. There's a bunch of reasons why that's important to me. I want to share those first, and then I'll tell you how I'm doing it daily. The biggest reason I think that's important is because I've been in a lot of spaces where people are there with maybe a little too much ego, like they're there to teach, not to learn. And I think that a lot of the challenges we have in the tech space around creating more inclusive opportunities for conversation and discussion, I think we could solve a lot of those if everybody would show up to those spaces with more curiosity instead of with a desire to teach. Like I try to go to every event that I go to. Even though I may be speaking, I'm still attending, I'm taking notes, I'm looking for folks who I can tell don't feel like they belong there and trying to make them feel that belonging, And I think that is such an important part of just being a good citizen in the world. So I love it for that reason. The way I put it into practice right now, I'm running this show. It's not really a podcast, but I'm not quite sure what to call it. It's a little weird. It's called The Question. And
Okay.
this is essentially the embodiment of this value for me. So the way that this works is on Monday mornings, I send an email to a list of folks who have requested this. In this case, it's about design systems. So these are design
Sure.
system practitioners that have requested this. On Monday, I send them an email with a couple questions. And the questions are on a very narrow topic related to design systems. And so I may ask them 2 or 3 questions. They have 48 hours to answer. And on Wednesday, I close that. And then Wednesday night, I pour a glass of bourbon or a glass of wine and I analyze all the data. And then on Thursday, anybody who answered is invited to join me on a Zoom call, and we unpack all of that data together.
Wow.
And so in the course of 1 week, I run a mini research project is really what it is. But the call on Thursday, the deep dive, is not me teaching. It's all of us in the design system community learning together. And so I've done now 60 of these shows. I have 60 hours of content created. I literally, Dave, I have so much material that I don't even know what to do with all of it. Like it's just a constant source of learning for me. And it's a way to kind of like scratch that curiosity itch,
I love that, man. I think that is that's so great. So I'm a big believer in technology. I was at this big technology conference in Vegas, and one of the thoughts that came out of that was, if you're of an older generation, let's say Gen X and above, if you were in the tech space, then maybe you're not relevant anymore. And maybe the people who are doing the best work in tech are 21, 22, 23, because they've been ingrained with it since they were born. And that was an interesting concept to me. And so I've been, thinking about that because, like a guy like you, man, you're constantly learning. Not only did you didn't, probably didn't grow up with a cell phone in your hand, I'm guessing, because I
Right.
didn't either, and got a little gray in the beard. So like,
I do.
we played a little different, but the constant learning, I would say, would be more. I think it's more elevating. Like I would rather go to work with a guy who's been in the trenches, built business, and is constantly learning and growing, for the last 25 years versus somebody who's only got a couple of years of experience. How do you look at that in the tech space? And is that even a fair question for the show? I'm not sure, but it's something that pops up, right? Where people think that the young generation, they have all the answers to AI and all of the answers to what they're building. And I don't feel like that's the right approach.
Yeah, I think it's not either or, I think it's probably both, right? I mean, there is value in a breadth of experiences and expertise. And so for years at my organization, we've run an apprenticeship program. We're not doing it currently, but we have for 10 years, we did this. And this was a 6-month paid position. And we developed a curriculum and we would teach them. They would move to our town to run this apprenticeship program with us. And what we saw is there was a gap in the education they were getting in school and their ability to actually execute in a real world, in this case, digital product role that we needed them for. And so we thought, well, we could fill that gap, and we could train the next generation of folks. And so I think we need both, right? Like that apprentice that would come in, those apprentices that would come in each time we did those sessions, honestly, we learned as much from them as they learned from us. They just challenged us. They asked hard questions. They wanted to know why we did things the way we do them, And I think that's kept us so young and like fresh in our perspective, And so I think both are needed. And I'm also really interested in, I don't know if you've been reading in The Atlantic, there's a series on happiness that they've been doing for a few years. And there's this concept, I can't remember, maybe it's David Brooks who wrote this. I'm trying to remember, but the double mountain analogy, I don't know if you've seen that, where it's like, have you seen that? Is that familiar to you, Dave?
I haven't seen that.
So really quickly, the idea is like in your career, you're climbing the first mountain, right? And it's kind of what you described. You get better and you get better and you get better. And at some point, you kind of reach that point at the top and you start to decline. And there's a new group of people coming up the back of that mountain. Right. And you can make a choice, right? You can stay on that mountain and keep declining. And that doesn't really lead to happiness, right? You're going to be frustrated. Sure. Or you can transition to the next mountain, and that's a different set of skills. That's like the mentoring. That's like creating space. That's leading. That is investing in the next generation and sharing your experiences with them. And that's, I think, where I see my trajectory changing, So
Powerful.
yeah, I think that's important. And that leaves space for both,
guy.
right?
I love it, man. I mean, I love it. You are just, I love this, man. You are so smart. I just love listening to what you share. So tell us about Sparkbox. What does Spark do today? Who is your ideal customer? What does it look like in your business environment?
Yeah, we're a digital studio. We have about 28, 30 people, something like that right now. We're all over the continental US, and we work with organizations of all sizes all across the world. Our specialization has been many things over the years, from responsive web design to design systems. We're beginning now, to, of course, like everybody, to include more sort of like, how do we enable AI for our customers? In a lot of cases, there's a lot of value we can find there. But we're really, the thing that makes us a little bit unique is that our approach has always been very educational. So of course, we're very good at the craft of building digital things, but most organizations have internal teams to do that kind of thing now. So what we often do is we come in alongside those internal digital teams, and we basically help lead new initiatives. We sort of mentor those teams. We help them develop their own talent. I would say, hiring Sparkbox is an investment in your team. That's how we try to see it. And so it's not just doing the work, it's helping shift their culture, it's helping develop their people, maybe helping them hire new folks. And so those are the kinds of things that we really specialize in.
So if I heard it right, if it doesn't matter if a guy's doing 500 grand in revenue or 2 billion in revenue, your team has solutions no matter where you are on the spectrum of the services that you provide. Is that correct?
I would say that's mostly true. I think if I were to be very transparent about the kinds of organizations we generally work with, we tend to be attractive to larger organizations because they have full teams that need support.
Right. Yeah.
So generally the work we're doing is pretty large scale work. But we do have, it's incredible the suite of tools and products that are out there to help folks in smaller, early stage entrepreneur sort of journeys. And so we do have a lot of expertise in those tools too. So we can be pretty surgical, come in and help those organizations, but those are usually much shorter engagements,
Sure. No, I understand. And you mentioned this, and you've kind of alluded to it a couple of times, where you're just, you're more in that coaching, that mentoring, that stage of life is changing. Maybe it's the second, mountain, or I've even heard it referred to as the second curve. What's my second curve going to be? And what's it like transitioning from a practitioner to a coach, consultant? What does that role look like? Because I think so many entrepreneurs, they get that expertise and they think, what's next?
Yeah. It's been an interesting transition for me. I'm still very involved in Sparkbox. I, a couple of years back, changed my title from president to founder because founder is so flexible, I think.
Yeah, I love
it. And I wanted to be able to do a lot of the research and writing, and I really just enjoy that work, And with that kind of came, on a whim one day, I just decided, I wonder if I could offer some coaching to folks. And it started out just as like a free sort of more mentoring type thing that I was doing with folks. And then I'm somebody who sees patterns in things very quickly, and so I started developing these models for design system work and for careers in the tech space. And so I've continued to collect these little models, and now I do have a coaching practice with folks who are usually folks who are on design system teams or in product teams who are interested in sort of like figuring out what's next for them in their careers, or who want help in sort of, their communication up to leadership, things like that. And so I have it's a small coaching practice. I can only really take, between 6 and 10 people at a time, but I stay very busy doing that, and it's really enjoyable for me. The transition's been tricky. I think finding the confidence to sort of speak into these folks in ways that I mean, I like instinctually, I know there's a lot of value in the things I offer, but like there's a difference between kind of knowing that and actually being able to speak with confidence to somebody in a scenario that's, it's important for them, right? We're talking about
Yeah.
their career, their livelihood. And
Right.
so I've sort of had to develop that, I think, but it's been really rewarding.
That's awesome, man. And I bet it is rewarding. It's probably even more rewarding than doing the work because you're able to invest in somebody, you're able to see the changes and you're able to see, basically, that butterfly effect, right? Where it's just like,
Yeah.
wow, you've cocooned and now you've grown and you've blown off, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of
pretty
cool,
neat.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Okay, so you've had quite the journey. You've been on it, you're having fun. How do people get a hold of you? How do they reach you? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you on Facebook, Instagram? Do you do anything on social media?
Very active on LinkedIn. Also, I am on X, although I find myself there less and less, and I am probably more active on Blue Sky these days. LinkedIn and DMs are open. That's probably the easiest way. And then my website is just bencallahan.com. There's a way to connect with me there, and you can see all the places I'm going to be and stuff I've written and thought about.
That's awesome. So if someone wants to follow you, it sounds like the best place is LinkedIn. Get hooked up on LinkedIn. You're
Yeah.
there, you're checking the messages, you're in and out, you're having a great time. Okay, that's awesome. So listen, if you're out there and you're listening and you're looking for this thought leadership, get with Ben, connect. And if you're on a journey and you're looking to have that coaching and support, get with Ben. It's awesome, man, what you are doing out there. I got 2 questions left before we bring this thing in for a landing. Any advice that you would give to the growing entrepreneur uh, in business today?
Yeah. I think the thing that's probably helped me the most is learning from spaces that are not hyper specific to what you do. In other words, like there's no new problem, like the
Yeah,
problems that exist in the world have all been solved. It's just maybe they haven't been solved in your space. And so
mm,
I'm like, for me, as an example, I'm right now focused on design systems. Well, design systems are systems. Systems thinking has been around for generations. There are
sure.
lectures from 50 years ago on systems thinking. And so I found a tremendous amount of value in looking in other industries like architecture or how restaurants are run or how vehicles, the system and vehicles create an actual functioning car, like all of those things are places that I can
Mm,
draw from and analogy I can draw from to learn. And so I think we're so focused on like consuming all this content from other people in our exact space that we miss out on the learning that can come from looking in other places, for similar problems or analogous problems.
that's awesome. So when you're building one of these design systems, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you might look at a business that has, you know, maybe a software for email and maybe a software for holding their files and their data and maybe a CRM and maybe a marketing CRM and maybe a reporting tool, if they're a service-based business in it, check in and out, and then maybe a payroll solution. And so maybe a company has 8 or 9 different portals that they have to log into. And then maybe they work with clients like Adobe, Gap, Stanford University, DocuSign that have their own portals that you have to log in to report work and that sort of thing. Do you look at that and then come in and say, this is a way that we can, design, engineer this software and connect the dots and put things together to simplify it for the team? Am I on the right track or am I completely off?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it today, every company is a software company, right?
Yep.
And everybody has a website. Most people have some other form of digital product. An easy example would be a bank, right? Like banks didn't used to be software companies, but they definitely are now. They
Sure.
have native applications. I can sign in on iOS or on Android. They have websites I can sign in, and they have kiosks I can use, right? And so all of these things are digital experiences. And all of them underneath the covers are built with the same kinds of things. They're UI elements like buttons and inputs in
Hmm.
form fields and images and text and all of those things, the building blocks of a digital experience. So we come in and we look across all of their digital products and we say, hey, your business is siloed, right? The people working on the app are not communicating with the people working on the website, are not talking to the
Mm,
kiosk people. And if we can sort of build a bridge between those folks, find the things that are common among them and build those things in a really robust and sturdy way. Now, all of those teams can take that library, that design system, pull from that to build their work, and it's more consistent. Their work is more efficient. It's more accessible. I mean, there's 1,000 reasons to do this, so that's kind of the core of it.
That sounds amazing. So I'm guessing that it works something like this, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but company XYZ comes in and they say, hey, these are the problems we're having. And you say, great, we need to do some analysis. So there's some consulting that happens in there initially where you're deep diving, you're talking to people, you're looking at the software, you're looking at how it works. And that's probably like some sort of consulting or fee that kind of comes with that. And then from that really enables you to create a scope of work that ties these things together. And then from that standpoint, you create a cost structure and it says, maybe this is phase 1, this is phase 2, this is phase 3, because standing up these initiatives probably takes time, effort, energy, and is hard. Plus you need all of their buy-in and their time and effort and energy, which can be like, pushing a string, I'm guessing, to get everybody on board. Is that kind of how it works?
You nailed it, Dave. That is exactly it. Yeah, we talk about onboarding, iteration, and offboarding as our phases. Onboarding is the discovery, the research, the evaluation, the assessment. Iteration is the work we do to evolve the systems, right? To figure out what we're actually going to deliver, the tangible assets we deliver. And then offboarding is making sure that we're leaving their team capable of supporting the work. Right.
Yeah, you
need
that buy-in.
Huge deal. Yeah.
So that's amazing. So you said something really powerful. I mean, you've had so many just great nuggets here on the show. It's just so impressive. But you said something I think that just really hit home. That's every single company is a software company. And you think about that, like even the guy who shows up to mow your lawn is a software company. Like that's like, wow. Is that wow? Like he's not a landscaper anymore, to be perfectly honest. Like he's a software guy because he's checking in and out of an app and he's running his program and he's sending a text. Hey, Mrs. Smith, I'm going to be there in 5 minutes and blah, 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 blah. Right. Like
he's looking at GPS data, satellite data of your yard to give you an estimate on how much. I mean, it's unbelievable. We do some work with Goodyear. Goodyear is a rubber manufacturer. They make tires. But they have sensors in tires now. They have so much data. They don't even know what to do with all of it. It's like unbelievable. There's so much data there and they have so many potential products there. Every company is working through this.
Everybody needs somebody like you, because the thing about it is that, and it's really, you're synthesizing that data is what I hear. It's like this, you're synthesizing this and you're putting solutions, because all of the software is actually made it more chaotic to run business, right? Like it used to be, I almost think, easier to run the business when we had a fax machine and an office phone and a filing cabinet, right? Because we knew the files went in the filing cabinet, we weren't going to lose them. And we knew that the fax was going to come in with the information, and we knew that the phone was how they got us, and they didn't get us when the office was closed. Now we have information overload. We have Teams, we have text message, we have cell phone, we have email. Like, hey, you didn't respond to my Teams. Oh, that's because you text me, right? Like, there's so much of it that when you come in and you look at that and you analyze that, I'm guessing that the efficiencies that you bring to the table could save a company, a small company, hundreds of thousands, to a large company, tens of millions. Absolutely. In just efficiencies. Is that an accurate portrayal?
That is, man. And honestly, it's funny when you talk about efficiency. Definitely, you get efficiency from the assets of, like, let us build you a library of components that are like Lego bricks for your products. You can construct them easily. But the big efficiency gain is in helping the team that's doing digital product work to understand each other. And that's what a system really gives you, is the language for these teams to speak. I'm sure you've been in scenarios where you go into a meeting, everybody's like, we're going to get this thing done. You do this, you do this, you do this. Everybody leaves, they go work on stuff, they come back a week later. They didn't understand each other. People went in different directions. And now we've lost time. And all of that, people are so frustrated out of that experience, right? It creates all this angst. That is the most inefficient process. So if we had the common language, if we knew what each other meant across these disciplines, across these silos, we would not have that kind of misunderstanding. We would get so much more done, more quickly, and we'd actually enjoy the work, So the language side of this is huge.
I love the language side, and that speaks to me from this standpoint of, you know, in every business, we have people who are on the older side who, don't, that, oh, we fat fingered this. You'll hear them say stuff like that, or, oh man, technology's not my thing, or, like, and so you're creating bridges between not only the softwares, but when you have a common language that everybody's speaking, are you also creating bridges between generations, really? Because the guy who's 21 and the guy who's 60, they're speaking completely different languages. But if we all speak a common language when it comes to our digital experience, doesn't that help them connect and communicate and get on the same page? Or am I off on that?
No, absolutely, Dave. That generational and also discipline, there's such the way that designers who are in, tools like Figma or other design tools pushing interface images around versus the people who are engineers who are writing code, those people think differently. They really, truly do. They approach problem solving a little differently. That both of those are very important, very needed. And those are just two of many disciplines involved in this work. But if we can give them common languages, right, to break the silos across the disciplines down, then all of a sudden we can work as a unit. There's such a unifying value in the systems work that we do, which I love. I think that's it's powerful stuff.
Incredible business you've built, man. Awesome. You've been so generous with your time. I have one final question. We got a big billboard. It's on the side of the road. It's completely white. You can tell the world whatever you want in a sentence, a phrase, a word. What would you share with the world today?
Oh, it's easy. It's what we talked about earlier. It would just say stay in learning mode. I think that would solve so many of our problems. I mean, we don't have to get into politics, but if people were just more curious about each other instead of trying to going in defensive, I think it would change so much,
That's right. Destroying each other, right?
Yeah.
Destroying each other. I was taking a run with a guy and he's from Canada and he was like, oh, what goes on in the US? He's like, it's like the tabloids every day over there. And I think to myself, I said, don't you have that kind of drama up in Canada? And they said, no, we don't have that kind of drama in Canada. I was like, that's very interesting. All right, I'll have to think about that. And but I think that's so true. Well, listen, Ben, it has been an awesome time hanging out with you. I have really, really appreciated. You have so much expertise and so much wisdom. Anybody out there is so lucky to work with you, and I've really appreciated our time today.
Likewise, Dave. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. This has been the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. Follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere at social I'm hanging out. We are back 9:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every single Tuesday. If you like this show, give us a like, give us a share, drop your comments into the comment box. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Ben, it's been awesome. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Likewise.
Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.